when she came in and I looked at her and like, hey, I had to kill her. So we stabbed her, we cut the heart, stabbed her through the neck. When everybody else left, me, I stood there and when I looked at the dead body and I actually felt a weight lift off me. I actually felt relieved that, I've done what I came to do. And, if I attribute that, I think, hey, I was really demon possessed. So the guys that are selling drugs are very, very wily. They know how to get at you. And drugs are demonic, my man. Really. Let me illustrate this, that, when they're mixing the powders, they're cutting an animal sacrifice over it. So actually they're mixing blood with the powders and it's demonic. Even when they're sending these powders or selling the drugs out on the street, they call sangomas and they call witch doctors to pray over these things.
Please tell me who you are and where you're from.
Okay, I'm Ravi Naidu, formerly from Durban, born and bred and grew up there. And now I'm residing in Alberton, Johannesburg. About 12 years ago, I moved up here. We come from not a very well-to-do family, and I originally come from Tin Town.
Yeah.
It was a shack town.
Oh.
Yes, and I grew up there, and we moved to Phoenix. I think that's trending now in in the news for the violence and the crime at the moment. But growing up was good. Enjoyed life. Things were easier. Things were much cheaper there. Yeah. So, I had we were not, as I said, not wealthy, but we had a good family structure, good family background.
Yeah.
I come from a family of 3 brothers and 3 sisters. So, we're 7, with me 7, so.
Yeah. Was it a colored community?
No, I'm Indian.
I'm snap. Sorry about that.
India.
Yeah.
Foga Naidu.
Wow. It's so crazy that Indian people in Durban, they can speak Zulu.
Yes, I think
some of them, actually.
Yeah, some of them. I learned my Zulu in prison, so.
When I saw you, I actually thought you were colored, right? Now that you're telling me that you're an Indian, it's quite shocking, right, for me, because I wouldn't really think that an Indian would want to find themselves in jail, especially in South Africa. But just to give, a little bit of context, what got you to jail?
I think our environment, where we grew up, it was a violent environment.
Yeah.
I think our surroundings, sometimes, we tend to gravitate to the things that we see. So growing up, drugs, gangs, alcohol, and those things looking up to drug dealers and looking up to people with flashy cars. And we based our lives on not good role models, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, and, from school, at school, we, became bullies. And we wanted to have the good life, the best life. But arrogance and pride and greed, I think that drove us. And that was the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think I was not of a criminal mind.
Okay.
But violence. I used to love to fight. Wherever I go, I pick a fight. So, I did yoga, I did karate, I was in the Natal team for gymnastics. So I was physically fit. And being a small, structured person, I think people picked on me and that was the detriment.
Just take me through, the time when you guys were, obviously after high school, you went into other things. What happened there?
I think I got married at a very early age. I was 17, I got married. I was a father at 18. And, life took a different turn for me. The things we aspired to do fell away because now you got somebody to look after. And I dropped out of school. I think at grade 11. So I dropped out of school, started to work. But the inner self, the aggression and the violence and the drugs and the alcohol, never stopped, you see. So, although we wanted a family life, but we still had that, we lived two lives, I could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think alcohol, drugs, gambling, going out with friends, and that drove us to be in gangs, you see. And I truly, truly believe that, our surroundings molded us, motivated us in the wrong direction.
You got married, and then now you needed to provide.
Yes. So I did work, and but it was not enough.
Okay.
We wanted nice cars, we wanted good houses, and running gambling schools, and doing all the wrong things eventually drove us to do crime. My notion was to sell drugs, to become a drug dealer, and I approached the prostitution houses. I worked in town, in the heart of Durban, and there were a lot of prostitution houses, and the massage parlors, they used to call them, they were in those days.
Yeah.
And the ladies there that wanted drugs and things, so we needed to generate some income so that we can afford to supply them.
Yeah.
And therefore this idea came up of robbing the House of Pearls.
What kind of drugs were you guys?
In those days, like, in my time, there was like no ecstasy and cocaine, but Mandrax and mostly Dacha, or Nsango, they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the main drugs at that time.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something in regards to the prostitutes in town. Are they owned by a particular person, or are they just doing their own thing individually?
No, they owned. There's no one can just walk up the street and then sell yourself. It's a business. It is I think the biggest business in the world now, prostitution. Therefore we're having these children getting stolen. We're having this prostitution rings and abductions. Yeah. So young children are being sold as prostitutes.
I'm trying to understand the process of somebody becoming a prostitute.
Let me illustrate a story, right? Say you're a rich man. You come from work every day. You stop at a bar, have one drink, and go home. You see, and then people are watching you, and as they watch you, maybe a couple of weeks go, and then they put a new nice girl onto you.
Yeah.
A nice pretty girl, and one day she says, "Hey, you know what? Buy me a drink." And then you buy a drink, and you get chatting, and she wants to take you home. And men, when you had 1-2 drinks, you want to go home with a girl.
Yeah.
And what happens? They spike you. They keep you there for 3-4 days. They spike you, and now your body is accustomed to it. You get hooked on drugs, and thereafter you want to sell everything else. So the guys that are selling drugs are very, very wily. They know how to get at you. And drugs are demonic, my man. Really. Let me illustrate this, that, when they're mixing the powders, they're cutting an animal sacrifice over it. So actually they're mixing blood with the powders, and it's demonic. Even when they're sending these powders or selling the drugs out on the street, they call sangomas and they call witch doctors to pray over these things. So it's no more a physical thing. It's become a spiritual thing now. Therefore, you hit one hit and you're hooked on it. Young children are getting so drawn to drugs. Even the weed. When we smoked weed, we got goofed. But today, the children are getting high because they grow it in hydro. They grow it in rooms like this. They lace it with heroin. They're lacing it with only chemicals and water. It's not even touching the earth. Now that in itself can tell you how demonic drugs are. And then these young girls, they meet a nice guy, takes them shopping, buy them nice phones, buy them nice things, and eventually put them on drugs. And after they're on drugs and their body is accustomed to it, they send them on the street. They have no option but to work for the drugs. So these guys that are dealing in drugs are very, very wily. We're not fighting a physical battle anymore. It's more a spiritual thing now.
So are you saying that some of the people that are creating these drugs are not just in a room and just creating them and selling them. They actually call sangomas and mix them with blood and muti and stuff like that.
Yes, remember, they're making money every which way to make money. When drugs came out, they were expensive. Now for 12 rand and 15 rand, you can buy drugs on the street. So how it became from expensive to become cheaper. So they're mixing with anything and everything. They have battery acid inside, the globes and whatever you can think of, it's in those drugs. You see, and these things are really killing people. And drugs is something, I've been on drugs. I've taken coke and ecstasy and smoked mandrax and smoked weed. You know, when you're on a high, you're very happy. But when you come down, that's when you get depressed. And you think of every sad moment in your life. And this is why young people are killing themselves. Because when you're depressed and you can't get on a high again, you kill yourself out of depression.
In the world of criminality, what role did you play?
Okay, me, I was the leader of the Phoenix 5 gang. And on one day, we went on a rampage. We were 5 of us. And when the day was done, I was involved for murder, 2 attempted murders, for rape, for indecent assault, and robbery with aggravating circumstances. So I stood before a judge and he said, hey, give me one reason why I must not kill you. Well, I was so arrogant, I said, hey, I never begged in my life. I'm not going to start now. You can't kill people who kill people to show that killing is wrong. And the judge said, very well then, on count number 1, I sentence you to death. On count 2, he gave me 10 years. Count 3, 7 years. Count 4, 7 years. Count 5, 7 years. Count 6, 7 years. So I had a death sentence and 38 years. I was only 24 years old. I committed the crimes when I was 23 years old. So they took me to death row, locked me up for 23 and a half hours in a cell. I remember in the first weeks, I didn't even sleep. There was no sleep. I couldn't sleep. I remember one day jumping off the bed, holding the wall and saying, hey, please don't fall on me, because the walls were closing on me. And what have I done to get myself into this? Arrogance, being disrespectful, not listening to my elders, dropped out of school, thought education was not important, and all this, looking up to the bad role models, basing our life on things that are false, that are fake. Being in the gangs is a fake life. Being on drugs is a fake life. So in all of that, I ended up on death row at the age of 24.
If you had to explain the kind of a guy were you, how would you explain that?
I was very arrogant. If I walked down the street, people, they crossed the road. So I was very violent, very aggressive. And I could use my hands. So, that was, I trained, exercised for it.
Yeah.
I used to play soccer. I physically trained. I used to run on the road. So, all that, gave me this bold aggression to take on anything. And, that's what led me to do all these crimes. And, when we look back and sing,
yeah,
is it really us, you see? So, as I told you, drugs is demonic. It alters your mind. Even drinking, it alters your mind. Even you're smoking a cigarette, if you breathe in, you take in oxygen to your lungs and it's going to your brain and then you're thinking straight. But if you're smoking, it goes to your lungs and, and then we're saying we're on a high. Actually, we're on a low. Taking drugs and smoking and doing weed and things is actually something that is so stupid. It is dulling your mind, it's dulling your brain. We're not thinking straight, we are not normal. So we're not doing things in our right frame of mind. Mm-hmm. And I believe this what, people today that are doing gruesome crime. Mm-hmm. And if you check his lifestyle or check their lifestyle, they've been on drugs. They've been on alcohol. And you know what? I'm a Christian now. And the Bible said the devil came to steal and kill and destroy. But God came to give us life and give us more abundantly. So the devil is at work in the lives. It's blinded the minds of people. Where in the sense that, we do this and not even thinking at the back of my mind we're going to get caught or, When I read stories, it's like, I did this to get caught. You can't do anything wrong the right way. You can't, we can't promote wrong. It's not going to last forever.
So you were just smoking drugs. You were not selling drugs.
Not in a vast scale, in a vast scale, but we were starting to sell drugs.
Yeah.
Yes.
These crimes that were committed, were you alone or with?
No, we were 5 of us. We're known as the Phoenix Five.
Jeez.
I think in that era, for Indians to commit this crime, it was a massive thing. Yes, like we hit the papers and the news for the wrong reasons.
You even branded yourselves.
Yeah, I think everybody else branded us.
Did you find a way maybe to put like maybe you guys were driving like Golf 1 branded with the gang name, maybe on the T-shirt and stuff like that?
Those days we were Fords. The big 6, 6 Ford Escorts and
yeah. Jeez, man. Because I can only imagine the type of a gang you guys were. But when you came into prison, now were you at low, or maybe they already knew who you were?
No, prison gangs outside and gangs in prison are totally different. We must never mistake that. The lifestyle, the laws. Yeah, it's totally different. So I was at 1 year at the waiting trial. And as I told you, I was very arrogant. I remember one day they broke the cupboard lids for the cupboards to kill me with,
Yeah.
Because I think while we were in prison, we were just new in prison. And then, a guy walked up and just slapped my co-accused, So I thought, we next. So I told my co-accused, what, just pass the boots. We tramped this guy so badly that everybody else saw, hey, now these guys are, the other guys I remember say, India. So I think that's when they backed off and,
Yeah.
So from there, I think we were 3 months in prison and then the gangs, the 26th gang recruited us.
Which prison is this?
That was Westville prison.
Were you the only Indian there?
We were very few Indians in Westville at the time.
But you are the toughest one.
Yeah, Islani. But I can see so India till they met up with me.
Yeah. So you got recruited into the 26 gang.
Yes, got recruited in 26 gang. And
did they give you a position?
No, at that time you just a student. You just a probation. If you come new into the gang, you're a probation, so they see how you work and yeah. And after almost a year, then I got sentenced.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found myself on death row, locked up for 23 and a half hours, all by myself. And in 2 months, I'd lost all my appeals. On death row, when you lose your appeals, they give you 7 days notice of execution. So maybe they come on a Tuesday and say, you know what, you've lost all your appeals, you appeal to the highest court, and then they turned you down, so the law must take its course. So the next Tuesday, they're going to hang you. So they took me, they measured my neck, my height, my weight, and, they were getting ready to hang me. I spent 6 years on death row. I'd lost all my appeals. I remember when the country was in transition, when Nelson Mandela came out in 2000, I think. So in 2001 or 2002, they had a panel of 5 judges that sat and said, let's review all these guys on death row. But the 5 judges said, I must pay with my life for this case. So, but I was prepared to die. I've done whatever they said I did, and I was guilty of whatever, I did kill people. We did murder people, almost kill people. So I was there for what I had done.
Can I ask you a personal question?
No, go for it.
How many people did you put to death?
On that occasion there were 3. 1 died and 2 survived. Yeah, so not counting the others that we got involved for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I related the story that when we, it was for a week or 2 weeks, this heavy on me, like I needed to do something drastic.
Yeah.
Maybe go kill somebody, And when this idea came about robbing the house of pearls and things, okay, our intentions were not to actually kill somebody, but, to do something drastic. And while we're in the house, and the person that came, I knew her, you see. She was from Australia, and she ran the house of pearls, and I knew her for a couple of years. So this is why I orchestrated that robbery. And when she came in, and I looked at her, and I had to kill her. So we stabbed her, we cut the heart, stabbed her through the neck. And when everybody else left, me, I stood there, and when I looked at the dead body, and I actually felt a weight lift off me. I actually felt relieved that, I've done what I came to do. And, if I attribute that, I think, hey, I was really demon possessed. To do something in cold blood like that, and then still, feel good about it, is not human.
You guys literally stabbed her and then cut her almost into pieces.
To kill her. And then the others were stabbed 7 times and 8 times. And the one that deceased were 5 times. So we were killing them. We are not yes, we were killing them.
What were you looking for? Money?
They ran the house of pearls, diamonds and pearls and jewelry and things. Yes. So as I told you, we wanted to fund the drug ring, you see.
Jeez, man, that was hectic.
Yes. When you're young, you're not thinking straight, And as I told you, it's demonic. Being in gangs and doing these stuff, it'll lead you to something.
Quick one. In gangs, the guys that are currently in gangs, every time when something like this has been committed, do you get credits? You see, when soldiers, they went on a mission and they killed this guy who's been wanted, maybe they would give them credits.
Give them ranks and things. Yes, the gangs work like that. I know in prison, the gangs are totally like that. So after 6 years on death row, my death sentence was changed to life in prison plus 38 years. So I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail. So up to that point, I had done nothing good to deserve to live. But people were praying for me. Churches were fasting for me. And then the Bible says in James 5:16, the fervent prayer of the righteous availeth much. Yeah. That applied to me. Because there are people that really prayed for me, and I'm the beneficiary of fervent people praying.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to live, but,
Where's your mom? Where's your dad? 24 years old, married somebody.
Yes. My mom and dad was around, and, I come from a Christian background.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, my brother was a pastor, father was a missionary, sister sang in the choir.
And you just hit a U-turn.
I was the blue sheep,
Yeah.
Yeah, so... I was let me say, robust. And I always want to swim against the current. I always want to be different and unique, But I chose the wrong path. Did go down the wrong routes.
I can only imagine the kind of support they had to give you.
When we do something wrong, we don't only affect ourselves. We don't only affect the victims' families, but our families as well. I've put my family through a lot. I was in Pretoria. From Durban, they used to travel to Pretoria. I've been in 5 prisons in the country, and everywhere I was, they traveled, they visited me. And I had a good family structure. And, I had 2 boys then. As I told you, I was married.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I went to prison, my eldest son was 5 years old. My second son, his mother was 6 months pregnant for him. So I only had the opportunity to really carry him and hug him. He was 7 years old. So 3 months later, when I was in prison, he was born.
Mm-hmm. How was life in prison, man? Because now you joined the 26 gang. and everything is just flowing. Was it nice?
Yeah, see, on death row, it's like you can't actually pick number and things. You're single, you're by yourself, you're not allowed to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, you don't go out the cell, you just go to the shower and back, and each time you're escorted by a warder, you know. So you're never alone. And there's no communication. You are not allowed to speak to anybody. You're not allowed to engage in any conversation, you know, or interact with any other death row prisoner. I think at that time there were about 600 prisoners on death row. But we all single cells. And after my death sentence was changed to life in prison, plus 38 years. And when I came back to Westville, then we joined the gangs again, and, you know. In a couple of years' time, I rose up to be a judge in the 26 gang, 8 stars. In the 26 gang, I was one of the biggest drug dealers in prison. I sold drugs for 15 years. I moved around to 5 prisons in the country, always involved in drug dealing, gang activity, you know. And many attempts on my life. So prison was, you're here for the rest of your life, so adapt. You know, and then every day I was involved in sports and, you know, just living our lives. I remember in Westville prison, I had like pot plants, I had TV, I had fish tank, you know, in a communal cell.
Wow, man.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it is glamorous, but I'm saying I had to make it comfortable for myself.
Because you had to accept.
I had to accept my fate, and, you know, life sentence in 38 years, it's like, it's your whole lifetime. It's really your whole lifetime. Yeah, you see prison, you know, when you go to prison, I think you need a psychologist or a social worker, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a total change of environment. Your mindset is totally different. You know, you have to adapt to something that you're not accustomed to. Like being free, waking up and eating when you want to, going to bed when you want to. Now in prison, you can't do that. They have laws.
Yeah.
You eat when they give you to eat. They open the cell, and if you don't come out, you don't eat. You know, and you've got someone always guarding you on your back, you see. So you need someone to help you to adapt. But in prison, they don't give you that. I saw a psychologist when I was done with 20 years in prison. And now he comes up to me and asks me, hey, are you remorseful? I said, for what? You expect me for 20 years to live my life now in regret? I have to live, I'm human. I've done the wrong things, but I can't live regretting it for 20 years. When I needed you to adapt, because it's a change of environment and my surroundings, and I need to adapt to people that I don't even know. That's when I needed a psychologist. But now you come after 20 years. So you see, our system doesn't allow for us to grow as a person. You've done the wrong thing, suffer it out. He's when.
They just leave you like that.
You see?
Yeah. I think maybe it's because of the pressure from the public. You know, when somebody has committed a crime, they just feel like this person deserves to be in there, suffer. Do you know what I mean?
You know, there are crimes that are deliberate, and there are crimes that are not premeditated. You find yourself in a situation where you had an argument with somebody, give somebody one punch, fall down, kill himself, you see. You didn't set out in the morning to go and kill somebody. Mm-hmm. You understand? So what happens to that person? He's involved for murder. Why is he in the same basket as everybody else? Somebody like me, who set out to go and kill somebody, and he didn't set out to kill somebody. Or you're driving your car and you met an accident and 2 people died and they charge you for murder. You see, our laws don't allow for, you know.
There's no proper investigation.
There's no proper investigation. I mean, if you're driving, an accident is what? It's something that you didn't set out to do. It's an accident. Unfortunately, somebody died. Yeah, I can understand you're drunk and under the influence. It is not allowed. You're breaking the law by driving under the influence. And you knock somebody, yeah, that's understandable. But just an ordinary person, sober-minded, driving to work one morning, get involved in an accident, so, you know.
Yeah. When was the point whereby your mind started to come back and you started to want to do the right things the right way?
You know, I was like 14 years in prison, and my wife passed away, It was a trying time for me. We were high school sweethearts. We had 2 boys with her, and, left her at a young age. And when she passed away, she had cancer, breast cancer, and she died. She was 38 years old. And 3 years later, my father passed away. I was like 17 years in prison. Now, there was no chance of parole. I was refused parole twice, I think, before that. And, when he passed away, I hit rock bottom. I went downhill. I can remember, I became depressed.
Yeah.
And I started to take drugs every day. I started to drink every day. And one Friday, I was 18 years in prison. One Friday, I had taken 13 ecstasy tablets, not to kill myself, but, just like, be high so you don't be depressed, you see. And 3 days later, I was not sleeping. And it was a Sunday at 9, and I couldn't come down. Now I started to get paranoid. I was drunk, I was drugged, I was confused and paranoid, I put my head on the cell door and said, God, if you're out there, I need you. I don't want to die in this place. Lord, it's been 18 years. No chance of parole. My life is going downhill. I'm ruining myself, And, God answered my prayer. The very next day, I'd forgotten I prayed. I was so high, I'd forgotten I prayed. I was without shirt. I was sitting there with my friends. I was smoking a cigar. I was drinking wine, And 5 men walked past the prison. Now, I'm 18 years in prison. You come to my house, you must know who I am. So I went outside and, who are you guys? And, one was an apostle, one's a prophet, pastor, teacher, and evangelist. And God has sent the 5-fold ministry to save a murderer and a rapist like me. And I was so excited, I was really excited to see this man, and, and I gave my heart to the Lord. I knelt down there and they prayed for me. And it was a instant change, I could say, instant transformation. Because after they prayed for me and I got up, I had no urge to be in the gangs.
Yeah.
I had no urge to sell drugs again. I had no urge to take drugs. And, we have this notion today, like, you need 6 months rehab and 3 months and 12 months and things. Hey, I'm telling you, my man, God can change it in a day. One day. Because even Jesus said, break this temple in 3 days, I will raise it up. And you have to have an encounter. You have to hit rock bottom sometime to say, what, there's no way out. Let us look for a supernatural intervention. And that's what happened to me. And when my life changed, from the very next day, I used to run away from my friends, hide myself in my room, read the Bible for 7 hours a day. And one of the things that I was inspired to do was to study. I boldly and proudly told you I was a high school dropout. I'm not my high school dropout. I have a diploma in teaching. I have a diploma in business management. I have a diploma in theology. I have a national certificate in electrical engineering. I studied catering, furniture production, home decoration, reupholstery. I studied music, all in prison after my life change. And then God accelerated my progress. And I could feel alive. For the first time in 18 years in prison, I looked in the mirror and said, wow, this is an handsome dude, man. Yeah, I began to like myself. I began to like myself. I forgave myself. I asked God to forgive me.
Yeah.
I did write letters to the people that I while I was on death row, and asked for forgiveness. Well, I thought then they were going to hang me, so I'd rather go with a good conscience, see. But I did ask for forgiveness. And, that's why I said, when you forgave yourself, you don't hold it against you. So this is why when a psychologist came after 20 years and said, hey, you know what, you still have remorse. And I asked him for what? For me, it was a cleansing moment. It was where my life changed. And even in the prison, the surroundings, it was a total different respect. I was stabbed 4 times after that by the rival gangs. And, but
for being against them now.
I don't know what was the reason, but it's like that. If you can't just leave the gangs in prison. You see, it's like putting your head on the block and saying chop it off.
Did you tell them that you're leaving?
You can't leave. You can't leave the gangs. But I've changed my walk. I've changed my lifestyle. In the 26 gang, there's no dustbin to throw your medals away. There's no rubber to rub your 26 stamp away. You see, there's no way you can throw the flag away. You see, it is law. But changing your walk, and then they watching you. That you can't say you change your walk and go back and sell drugs again.
Yeah.
For me, God protected me, but to an extent where I was stabbed 4 times. But I had to forgive the guys because I'm a changed man now. In gangs, when they take your blood, you have to revenge and bring it back. Blood brings blood back. If you lose your money, the crown, you must bring it back by blood. You must stab somebody for it. If a warder took your dacha, you go stab somebody for it, you see. So, talking about the gangs, the first thing the gangs, they tell you when you join the 26 gang, you got no mother and you got no father. What is actually telling you? You're dying prematurely. Because when you read your Bible, it tells you if you honor your father and mother, you live long on the face of the earth. But if somebody telling you got no mother and you got no father, they're telling you you're not gonna live long. And every page or every work of the 26, from the lowest, right to the highest rank, is money. It's crown. Your first work or your first page. So, the Bible tells us that you can't worship God and mammon. So gangs are very, very demonic. Very, very demonic. It sucks you in to an extent where, like when I came out into the courtyard, you see, there's no medals. But people, they saw the medals. It is there. They respect you. They salute you. Hey, correct, you see. Because it's an imaginary thing. The way you dressed, it's all imaginary, but it's real. You see, so what can draw you to that position? So, drugs are demonic. It is a false life. So if I can clearly remember now that all the years that I lived up to that point was fake, was false. And you're dying for somebody you don't know. If one of the 26 guys went and got involved, and you'll have to go and fight for him. Like I had an altercation with the general of the 28, and there was 26 soldiers and myself, and he said he heard one of us, he heard us plotting to kill him. At that time, I just changed my life and given my heart to the Lord, and here this guy is, so I'm not sure what the soldiers were plotting, you see, but he said he included me in it, you see. And a week later, he stabbed the guy 43 times and knelt down and was cutting his head out. He was coming in the room where I was sleeping. And the warders, they stopped him. So he could have killed me in my sleep. So gangs are only glamorous when the money is flashing and things. But when the violence starts, and when the gangs erupt, it is unsafe. I've been in the gang wars where 20, 30 people stabbing each other. And I come out without a scratch. I've been protected even in my wrongdoings.
Tell me about the day when you left prison.
I have a book, that Destined to Conquer, and then I've written, it's called The Day Will Dawn. After 24 years, I was refused again on 23 years. My co-accused went home. But me, they said I must apply in 2 years' time. That'll be 25 years. And by the time they respond, it'll be another 2 years, 27 years.
Yeah.
I could have been president. I think 27 years, Mandela was president.
Yeah.
So on the 24th year, they should release me at 6 in the morning. And I used to come back at 6 at night. It was like a day parole. And on the 25th year, they released me. So, my first day walking outside, if you read my book, you'll feel, I've written that, the trees were actually dancing to my swagger. I've written the insects were actually singing to the tune of my walk. It was a day where, for the first time in my life, there was no one to escort me, no one to guard me, no one to tell me to walk to one side. And, it was like a dream. I actually couldn't believe myself that I was walking out of prison after 2.5 decades.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for your story. Hey, I'm very much inspired, and I know that your story will help millions and millions of people out there. You've got a nice book here. How can people get it?
Okay, you can download on Amazon.
Okay. On
Kindle Store and Smashwords. And I do sell hard copies. They are 320 Rand. They 260 pages. But it's a story where it is unique.
Yeah.
It speaks about the gangs in prison. It speaks about death row. It speaks about prison life. It speaks about, the triumphs and the tragedies of going through this and being alive today.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And people can contact me on my WhatsApp number.
Yeah.
Can I give the WhatsApp?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
no
it's 066 444 5980. Again, 066 444 5980.
I was told that you're now a pastor.
Not really a pastor, but we run a church on the street.
Okay.
Every Mondays for the last 2 years. We feed the homeless. We have praise and worship. And every Thursdays on a different location, we have a street church where we encourage the homeless. We pray over them.
Yeah.
We pray over the job seekers. So it is called Salvation Foundation. I run an organization for ex-offenders. It is called the Joseph Principles Ex-Offenders Reintegration. Like in the Bible, Joseph came out of prison and he wasn't a burden to his family. So I teach actually ex-prisoners skills, like baking, cooking, building furniture, so that they don't go and look for a job.
Yeah.
You come out of prison, you have this stigma where, they ask you previous convictions and you say yes, and then we can't employ you. So, and I want to say this, that if the public and the community is out there, you see, every community is made of families, and we're having problem with families, and therefore our communities are ruined. So if the family stands up, and support an initiative like this, give these guys skills where they can get up in the morning, bake some cakes, go sell it on the street. You got money to eat. You can pay for rent. Like help them to build furniture. And if the communities and if businesses can come in contact with us, and we can explode this, because there are people that really want to change. I know a lot of ex-offenders that are prosperous nowadays because they had good family structures. They have good support systems. But a lot of those that committed crimes at home or in the community, and the communities don't want them anymore, And recidivism is like, I came out and I can't get a job. My family looked after me for 3 weeks, for a month. Now they're counting the cost. If I eat 5 slices of bread, they're saying, hey, you're eating too much, With all that, and this is why the guys are going back to prison. They come out and the communities don't want them anymore. So I believe that if we can help and get involved in their lives, we can change our communities.
Yeah.
We stand on the outside and judge people. We look at what's happening in our communities and think, hey, we don't want to get involved. Eventually, you're going to get involved. 10 years ago, I spoke to people in Phoenix, and I said, if your families are safe and you are safe, you got no ex-offenders in your family, you got no drug addicts in your family, but eventually, it's being like on a boat. You on one side where you're living a proper normal life, you got high fences and things, and the guy on the other side want to drill a hole in the boat. Now you ask him, hey, what are you doing? And he said, well, you're enjoying your life. I'm enjoying drilling a hole in the boat. Eventually, everybody's going to sink. So what happens in one corner of society eventually is going to affect all of societies.
100%.
And I know people now, their copper pipes are being stolen because the people are feeding their drugs.
Yeah.
They petty crimes. I mean, we've become so low that we steal the barrier, the metal from the roads to sell it. Eventually, you go off the road, you're going to kill yourself. But you're not taking drugs. You're not stealing. But eventually, you're going to be affected. People are putting high fences and high walls. But the crime rate is so high. We're not dealing the root of the problem. I've listened to so many policies of all the parties in South Africa. We got I think most parties in the whole world. Not one came out and said, you know what, we want to tackle the scourge of drugs. And our entire problem in South Africa is drugs. It's not unemployment. It's not crime. It's drugs. Because a man has to steal to feed his habit. And we're having house breakings because the man is feeding his habit. Okay? We've got rehabs where it costs a lot of money. And government entities, they're not helping. So we are looking at a problem. We are preaching about a problem. We are not speaking about a solution. We all can see what the problem is, but we're not speaking about a solution. And I believe, and I truly and strongly believe, I'm a strong believer of this. And this is why I work the streets. This is why I go to drug dens. This is why I go to speak in rehabs. This is why I go speak at schools. Education is very, very important. The Bible says people perish because of the lack of knowledge. It's not that we got no knowledge, but we lack it. We don't want to engage in things that will affect us physically. So we work the streets for 2 days a week. We try to encourage people, but we have no support from the government. We have very little support from people. They don't want to see a good initiative. I've spoken to executive managers. I've spoken to the members from the legislature. They came and saw what we do, giving people skills out of our own pocket, but they don't want to support us. And this is why we're sitting with a problem. We can all blame everybody else. What are we doing to alleviate this?
It's very difficult for us to do it from our own pocket.
It's a cost thing. You can help one or two.
Yeah.
We're feeding over 100 on the street every Mondays. We're doing this over 2 years. We last week, Thursday, tomorrow is Thursday, we had about 80 on the street again at a different venue. So it's a cost effect. I try to teach the ex-offenders, we've been right to provincial. They don't want to support the initiative. They said, no, we're supporting Nicro and, that's it. You see, my man, we can give you all the knowledge. We can download stuff and tell you about every knowledge of how we can do this. But if we don't act physically, we don't give you an alternative, knowledge is not going to help you. I can't go tell a man on the street, you know what, hey, you need to change your life, you need to give up these drugs and he's in a hungry stomach. He's not going to listen to you. We need to have an attraction, an alternative. Food attracts people. When you have them in a vicinity conducive for change, we create this environment where you come here, we educate you, and we feed you. So this is what we're lacking.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your testimony. What you've said is very, very powerful. And I know that it will get into people's minds. Yes. And thank you for your time. I really appreciate it a lot.
No, where it helps to change lives, count me in.